towards elections. And this is, there has been a historical pattern where states use violence as a form of political control. If you check from the 60s and 70s, during post-colonial government, the regime of Kenyatta and the regime of Moi used violence to control their opponent. So political dissent was undermined. People were killed, people were assassinated. When it came back to the 90s, when there was agitation for multipartyism in the 90s, and which birthed Sabasaba, there were also a lot of deaths. In the regime of Kibaki, around 2007, 2008, post-election violence, whatever you witnessed, the violence that police perpetrated, which resulted to at least 400 deaths, was a form of political control. Kibaki wanted to retain power. And you witnessed the same thing in 2017. Uhuru wanted to consolidate his base. But beyond just also political consolidation and control, this violence have also been perpetrated when there is political instability, when there is economic unrest, and there's also constitutional crisis. As an example, in 2013, between 2013 and 2015, when the government launched the so-called war on terror, there was operations in northeastern, there were operations in Sili, there was operations in coastal region, which led to extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances. We can see it in that context. Now we are going to the next election. You can see how the state has shown up its force. And now they are doing it in different forms through vigilante groups. This is called informal repression. Informal repression is where the state covertly uses vigilante groups to suppress dissent and civil liberty so that they undermine the legitimacy of the concern that took people on the street, and they shield themselves from accountability. And at the time of the late President Kenyatta, President Moi, there was Jeshi la Mzee. At the time of Kibaki, we saw Mungiki killing people. At the time of Uhuru Kenyatta, there was the Nairobi business community. In this regime, you've seen in the last protest, people came and disrupted protests. When it was so successful that it was peaceful and the impact could be felt, then they introduced goons to delegitimize the process. It is the same thing that happened last week, few weeks ago, when people took to the streets to demand that those who killed Albert Ojwang should be arrested and prosecuted. Goons operating hand in hand with the police were unleashed to delegitimize this process. So I also understand why, when people here say that they were fearing if they go on the street, they will lose their life, that is the making of the state. This is exactly what the state wanted to achieve, to instill fear to an extent that you cannot come out on the street to express yourself.
By the way, Cornel, you do recall on the day, and Dismas, we were in studio right at the time the announcement was made. The government also decided to ban the live broadcast of the protests. What do you make of that from a human rights perspective?
In fact, that decision was unconstitutional. The Communication Authority of Kenya does not have power to direct how the media is operating. That's the mandate of Media Council of Kenya. Beyond that, even the wording of the letter was problematic because they are saying it's live transmission. There's no live transmission. There's a delayed time of about 1 minute. So in actual sense, this is a recording. So it's not live transmission. And I'm glad that we went to court, Kenya Human Rights Commission went to court, Katiba Institute went to court, together with Katiba Institute and the Law Society of Kenya, and we secured orders that lifted the ban that had been put by Communication Authority of Kenya. So this tells you what? The state wants to avoid accountability. When you switch off the TVs, people cannot see what's happening. So that gives room for people to go and loot businesses, for goons to go and attack others. because there will be no one beaming that. And then they'll come the following day and say, so you see those protests, they are destroying this and this. But it was their own making.
I see.
Victor,
All right.
before Madam comes in, if
Yes.
you allow me to make a point,